Hi everyone, I'd like to talk about Agile and Scrum today. A lot of people think they're the same thing. They're not. They're different, but they mesh together really well. Agile is this kind of body of knowledge. It's kind of this short list of principles where it has four values, these four values here, and then 12 principles. I think they're all very, very straightforward. Some of them are the wording is kind of weird on some of them, but let's dive in and we'll talk about that. So, Agile values these things over here, these kind of principles or ideas over the ones on the right. So, they don't totally ignore these ones, they just value the ones on the left more. So, individuals and interactions. Agile values individuals and interactions over processes and tools, which to me means, of course, a development team is still going to use processes and tools. They're just going to be very careful not to let processes and tools become more important or sometimes the opposite of this is where a person, a manager maybe, will impose a process that everyone hates, that doesn't work, that maybe the manager likes it, but all the individuals and all the interactions are pretty awful because of this stupid process or because of this stupid tool. And we would say that is not agile. We also value a working software. Sometimes we're not building software. Maybe we're building a house. So we might sometimes I replace this word with working solution. Uh, Agile values a working solution over comprehensive documentation. If you're building a house, are you going to care about that the house works, or are you going to care about the guide to the appliances or the guide, a maintenance document or something? Of course, you're going to want a working solution. And some people confuse that. Some people, not very many, but some people, they don't care so much about that the solution works, whether it's software or a report or an image. Instead, they want all their T's crossed and all their I's dotted. And we would say that's not agile. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. This one's awesome. Some people that kind of get antagonistic with the customer and they really, really, really they care about that the contract is solid and they want to kind of pin the customer down. And that can become a little bit hostile. It can become a little antagonistic. We don't want to do that. We want to collaborate with the customer. Sometimes we like the word partner. We want to partner with them and work together. And it's kind of just an attitude adjustment. I love it. This one's my favorite. We want to value responding to change over following a plan. Does that mean we don't care about the plan? Of course not. Of course we care about the plan. You have to have a plan in order to do some work. Everyone knows that. But some people are married to the plan. They get all bent out of shape if they don't follow the plan. And if the plan doesn't work out, things fall to pieces. We don't want to be like that. That's a rigid manager. That's not an effective manager. We want to respond to change. And that means we have a plan, but if something happens, and it always does, about a minute later, a minute once you start working on your plan, something is going to happen. We want to be able to respond to that change quickly and easily, and maybe change the plan, and do something different. Do we want disruptive changes? No, some changes are to the plan are very, very disruptive, and that can harm your plan, your project. We want to be smart about it, right? We would prefer a small change over a big change. If we had 100 large changes, we might not ever finish the project, right? We want we want to do small pivots, small changes, not the terribly disruptive ones. Okay, those are the four values. A lot of people confuse these. They stumble and they argue about it. I don't want to argue so much as I want to get the work done. That's That's what's most important for me. Remember, this working software, that implies you want to get the work done. All right, let's talk about a couple of the principles real quick. I don't think I'll cover them all. They're all pretty awesome, but I just want to pluck out a few of them. This one, we want to deliver working solution frequently, from a couple of weeks to a couple of months, with a preference towards the shorter time scale. This is my favorite word here. Deliver, 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 deliver. This is when the trust goes up. When you deliver value, even if you're not done, with the project, say you're building a house, even if you're not done with the house, you could be done with phase one, which might be digging a hole for the foundation. So you want to cut up your project into a bunch of small pieces called iterations, and then you want to ace iteration after iteration after iteration. You want to deliver, deliver, deliver. So if your first step to building a house is digging that hole, you want to build a great hole, and you want to finish it within 1 week or maybe 2 weeks. You want to finish it within the shortest amount of time possible, but it needs to be high quality. The other one I like is simplicity. So a lot of people kind of laugh at this definition. The art of maximizing the amount of work not done. That some people think that comes across as lazy. It's not that we're trying to be lazy. It's that we're trying to be efficient. And part of efficiency is cutting out anything superfluous. So if you have superfluous, means it's not necessary. And again, we want to deliver in small iterations. And a big part of that is simplifying the problem at hand. Some people, the opposite of this is making a problem more complicated than it needs to be. And some people do this all the time. A piece of work will come to their desk, come to their minds, and they will kind of blow it up, and they'll make it so stinking complicated. They'll add features, they'll add this, they'll add that, and it makes it so that they're never ever done. They never finish. They just keep working and working and working, but they kind of spin their wheels, and it never gets finished. We don't want to do that. We want to simplify the problem. We want to maximize the amount of work not done, and we want to finish the iteration. And then tomorrow, maybe we need to do another iteration, and we could work on it again to improve the quality or whatever. And those are the two principles. All these principles are pretty darn good, but those two are my favorite. I think I'm just going to leave you with those, and then we'll switch over to Scrum. So that's Agile. I'd love to entertain your questions on Agile. It's kind of this mindset. It's kind of an attitude that's wonderful, and a lot of people get it wrong. But if you get it right, you will be far more productive when you take on any type of work. All right, let's talk about Scrum. Scrum is kind of a specific way of approaching Agile. It's a specific way, a framework, a regimen about how to do a project. You can just go to scrum.org and learn all about it. Here's the official guide. It's very short. It'll probably take you, let me try that again. It'll probably take you an hour to read it. Here we go. 14 pages, not too bad. And I agree with almost everything in it. A couple of things I kind of, I'll go into those in just a second. But first, let's talk about the stuff I do like. I like about 80% of it. And usually when I talk about Scrum, I don't go to the Scrum guide and read the Scrum guide. I search Scrum diagram, and there's 1,000 diagrams out there that are awesome. I like this one. This one, to me, explains it pretty darn well. The blue, this kind of bluish color here, are the different overarching concepts. So Scrum has a sprint, and a sprint is just a time box. It's just a time period of work, like usually 2 week, 1 week, 2 weeks. I prefer 1 week sprints. 1 week sprints are just lovely, and that it's just a container for your work, for the team's work. During that sprint, you'll have these are different meetings right here. Sprint planning meeting is exactly what it sounds like. Daily Scrum is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful concept. This is where you meet every day for a very short period of time. A lot of people call it daily stand-up, and you just talk about, everyone takes a turn, and you talk about next steps, basically. You talk about what you did yesterday, you talk about what you're going to do today, you talk about things that are blocking you or getting in your way, or I like to talk about any sort of stress. Anywhere where you're struggling is great. Sprint review is at the end of the sprint. You just review what you did. Sprint retrospective is often tied with the sprint review. A lot of times demos are in the sprint review too. Demos are great. And the sprint retrospective is where you think back on the week and say, you think retrospectively. You think, how'd we do? What went well? What didn't go well? How could we do better? Yeah, that's kind of the process of Scrum. The green ones here are the different roles. The Scrum Master makes sure everyone does Scrum. I kind of chuckle at this. I don't find it very valuable myself. Most people are capable of following simple processes without a cop, without a police officer. Development team are the people doing the work. The product owner role is the person in charge of the product. And they groom the backlog. Sometimes these maybe they're part-time roles. People might wear different hats in Scrum. The other important person is the stakeholder. They're not shown in this diagram, but the stakeholder cares. They control your welfare. They care about the project's success. So those are the different roles. The red ones here are the artifacts. Very, very, very important. So our product backlog is basically a long, long wish list. Maybe it's long. Some of them are long. Sometimes they're not. I've seen 300 item backlogs or 1,000 item backlogs, or sometimes they're 10 items long. And that's all the things we want our product to do. It's kind of like a wish list or a to-do list. And notice some of these are big, some of these are little. That's, maybe some of these are very, very long and cumbersome or nebulous or difficult, and these other ones are very, very easy. What you want to do with the big ones is break them down. I don't like big story items, big user stories, some people call them PBIs, product backlog items. I think that's a silly term. My favorite term is story or to-do or user story. And I like to break them down into smaller pieces. Some people break them down like this. They keep the epic, they keep the big container, and then they have a whole bunch of small to-do items in there. That's just fine. I say do what you want. Every person has their own way of working, so I try to accommodate to the extent possible. And this little circle here means refinement. In Scrum, we're always refining this product backlog. We're always reprioritizing, the ones at the top or go first. We're breaking them down. We're giving them a little bit of love and making them better, making each user story better in some way. And then we want to do it. We want to satisfy it. So that's where your sprint backlog comes in. You kind of draw a line and you say, we're going to focus on these top ones. And that becomes your sprint backlog. And that's great. Sprint goal. We want to knock out all of these items this week. Okay, let's do this. And maybe you don't finish them all. Maybe you bite off more than you can chew. I don't think you need to feel too bad about that, unless you were slacking off. Some people, sometimes this goal, there's problems with it. This is one of my problems with Scrum. Sometimes a person finishes early and they say, okay, I'm done with my sprint. Bye-bye, everyone. Or I'm going to take it easy. And of course, we don't want that. Some people feel bad about not taking enough tasks and they don't finish them all. And they get really depressed about that. Of course, we don't want to be depressed. We just want to get work done. Definition of done. Yeah, that's the definition of done. Sometimes people have different opinions about what done means, and we want to have one opinion. Not, we all want to be on the same page. Increment means the work that you did. So ideally, we would deliver this to the customer or to the end user. Sometimes that's not possible. Sometimes you might have to work on a feature or some component of the house for many, many, many weeks, many sprints before it's ready to demonstrate. That's okay. It's just every project is different. So but our goal is to demonstrate progress, demonstrate value ASAP, as soon as possible. And that's Scrum. Pretty simple, very, 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 very powerful. It's not perfect, but it is pretty darn awesome. Some people do 2-week or 3-week or 4-week sprints. I would strongly recommend against that. I would, if you're doing time boxes, I would do 1-week time boxes. And sometimes those time boxes get kind of annoying. Once a team has been working together for, say, 6 months or a year or something, sometimes I do away with time boxes and we just go round and round and round the product backlog. And we do these meetings. I like these meetings, but sometimes the sprints kind of they get in the way. They become a problem. So I'll just toss them. But I would warn against doing that early with the team. You want the team trust to be high and the team performance to be high before you would get rid of sprints. All right, and that's Scrum. Very powerful methodology.